I believe we are live. I hope you guys can hear me well. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Sierra. Looks like everybody is putting in where they're from in the chat, from Texas to California to New Jersey. I even saw someone from El Salvador. Awesome, tuning in from all over the world. That is incredible. Bay Area, and of course all of our Indiana natives. That's so great to see. I also saw somebody's from South Bend, Indiana. I'm also from South Bend, Indiana. So that's awesome. What are you guys planning to study at university, whether you come to Purdue or another university? What's your planned major? Chemical engineering. Engineering is a very popular program. Forestry, awesome. I actually graduated from the agriculture department too. Nursing. Wow, a lot of engineering students. Law. Gonna go to law school. That'll be fun time after you graduate with your undergraduate degree. Awesome. Professional flight. Pharmacy. Wow, a ton of engineering students. A ton. Okay, awesome. It's so cool to see all the different majors and all the different locations. A lot of you guys from the United States. I even see some people from different countries. Well, I'm so excited to be here today with you guys and to talk a little bit about paying for Purdue and the different options that you'll have. As I mentioned previously, my name is Sierra. I am a financial aid counselor here at Purdue. And I'm actually from South Bend, Indiana, and I graduated from Purdue. So I've been in the same position a lot of you are right now, making that difficult decision about where you're going to attend. And it's definitely a confusing process when it comes to figuring out how you're going to pay and what all the different aspects of your financial aid offer letter mean. So we're here today to kind of address all of your questions. We have a few moderators in the chat. Some of my colleagues will be there to answer the questions that you have that I may not be able to get to here, but they'll be able to answer those. If for any reason I or my colleagues don't get to your question, you'll definitely still be able to get your question answered. Just feel free to give us a call, stop by virtual counseling, or send us an email. And if you happen to be on campus for visiting or a tour, you're more than welcome to also stop by our office, and we have financial aid counselors available to help address your concerns. So they will put that contact information in the chat. You can send us an email. But let's go ahead and get started with the information that we already have and the questions that we were sent in advance. All right, so if you haven't done so already, the first and most important step is to go ahead and activate your My Purdue career account. So if you haven't done that already, you can actually go ahead and do that right now while you're still listening to me talk. You'll need to have your offer of admission letter on hand because it has two important pieces of information. One is your Purdue ID number, and the other is your temporary setup password. So you'll need those two items, and then you'll go to the setup account link, which they'll also put in the chat here, and also some directions if you can't exactly follow what I'm saying right away. They'll put the directions for you there. You'll just need those two pieces of information from your offer of admission letter. You'll be able to set up your account and view your financial aid offer letter if you haven't done so already. So that career account is going to be your hub of information. That's where you'll have all of your communication, in addition to your email address, of course. But that's where you'll be able to see your aid, any changes to your aid, any additional information regarding verification or requests for signing promissory notes, things things like that. So be sure to explore your account and take a look at all the different information available to you there. So you'll need that set up in order to see any aid that you've been offered to come to Purdue. So it's the same portal that you'll use if you do attend Purdue. You'll be using that as a continuing student throughout your career here. So I'm assuming most of you have already filed your Fafsa, which is that free application for federal student aid. So you've done it this year, more than likely, but just be sure and keep in mind that you need to file the Fafsa every single academic year that you'll be attending Purdue. So you filed it now, and the financial aid offer letter that you've received is for your freshman year. Once you file your Fafsa again next year and the subsequent years, you'll get a new financial aid letter each year letting you know what your aid will look like for that upcoming year. So if you haven't filed your Fafsa already, don't worry, it's not too late. The Purdue priority filing deadline is March 1st. So you actually still have a couple of days to go ahead and get that in. And a common question that we've been receiving recently is, if I submit it today, but it takes Purdue a couple of days to receive the Fafsa, is it still considered on time? And the answer is yes. So we'll use the date that you submit the Fafsa. And so just be sure to get that in before March 1st to be considered for the maximum amount of financial aid possible based on that Fafsa submission. For 2021-22, you'll notice on the Fafsa that it asks for 2019 tax information. And that's because the Fafsa is going to be using information from 2 years prior. So 2021, go back 2 years, that's 2019. Even if you think you may not qualify for grants or scholarships, it's really important to file the Fafsa to have the opportunity to borrow federal student loans. So you never know when you may need them, and it's good to have that option available to you. We do recommend considering taking federal student loans before looking at taking private loans. And it's also something, the Fafsa is something that we need on file if you have a change in your financial situation. So if your current financial situation is not accurately reflected by that 2019 tax information, we'll need that Fafsa in order to revisit that and see if you may qualify for something, for some other financial aid if you had a job loss or an income loss or out-of-pocket medical expenses, things like that. So that's something we can work with you on if that's your situation. Just be sure to contact us so you can speak with a financial aid counselor about your specific personal situation, and we can determine if we can make any adjustments based on your case. So once you're in your financial aid account and you're reviewing your financial aid award notice, you'll be able to see all the types of financial aid that you've been offered, whether it's grants, loans, or scholarships, and you'll get an email once that's available. If you haven't already received that email, it may be because we don't have your Fafsa. Some students have sent their Fafsas to other universities but didn't put Purdue as one of the school options. So just be sure, if you didn't receive any notice, be sure to revisit your Fafsa and make sure that the Purdue school code is listed there. There are some different campuses for Purdue, so if you put Purdue Fort Wayne, Purdue West Lafayette won't have your Fafsa. So just be sure to check that. Your parent, if their information is on file, will also receive an email when that information is available, as well as the student. So it'll include both the financial aid that you've been offered along with the estimated cost of attendance. And you'll be able to have a general idea of how much you may have to cover, whether it be out of pocket via 529 plan, private loans, or how much you may be looking at in utilizing the installment payment plan. And we'll talk a little bit about the installment payment plan a little bit later. Let's see if we have any questions. So we had a question from Serena, who mentioned that she got 2 scholarships, one from Purdue and one specifically from her college, and was wondering if she gets to use both. So if you're referring to college, so College of Science or College of Agriculture, something like that, any scholarships that you see on your financial offer letter, you're eligible to use while you're at Purdue. So if for any reason you're not eligible to receive a scholarship, we wouldn't list it on your financial aid offer letter, or we would adjust it. So if you see it there, it means that you're eligible to utilize both. Okay, and so going back to that career account, the My Purdue portal, while you're in there, you'll be able to see any requested verification information. So there is a little section there, it's called Financial Aid Requirements, and you'll see any links that you need to click on in order to get the instructions to satisfy that outstanding verification. And you'll have to complete that information in order to have your accurate financial aid offer, because some of you who have requested verification out there, you'll notice on your aid offer letter that it says preliminary. So that preliminary means that we need your verification, and once that is completed, you may or may not see changes to the aid offered based on the information provided during the verification process. So once verification is completed, you'll know for sure exactly what your financial aid offer will look like, and you'll want to get that in as soon as possible so that you can make a very informed decision about committing or not to Purdue based on the aid offered to you. So Shalini in the chat asked, is Fafsa mandatory for any merit scholarship? And if you're referring to high merit scholarships at Purdue, the Fafsa is not required. For example, presidential or trustee, if you are a recipient of one of those scholarships, you do not need to submit the Fafsa. However, we still highly recommend that you complete the Fafsa in order to make sure you've been offered all possible aid that we can give you. And so as previously mentioned, you'll want to make sure you complete any outstanding verification before school starts, preferably before you make your decision to attend Purdue. We want to make sure we give you the most accurate financial aid offer letter before you make that decision. But there is no hard deadline to submit your verification documents. So if your parents are still working on getting some of the documents that are being requested and they just don't have it yet, it's okay. Your financial aid eligibility will not be removed if for some reason you can't submit that right away. Just be sure to do it as soon as possible, because we do need that information before you can know for sure what your aid looks like, and it won't be able to apply to your bill if we don't have it in on time. We received a question from Daria. Are there any departmental scholarships to help pay for college if your child did not receive a merit scholarship? So the departments on campus, they do have scholarship funding that they give to students. However, at this time, the Purdue scholarship awarding cycle has already concluded. So any aid that the student was considered for, selected for, eligible to receive is included on that financial aid offer letter and their account. So unfortunately, if they don't see the financial or scholarship listed there, it means unfortunately they weren't selected. And that's simply due to the fact that funding is extremely limited. So not all students can be given a scholarship. We received a question from Persis. Do I need to accept my admission to receive more financial aid? That's a good question. Accepting your offer of admission does not mean that you'll receive more financial aid. So the financial aid package that you received is the financial aid that you'll be receiving if you decide to attend Purdue. There's no additional financial aid that's offered because you accepted your offer of admission, if that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. And so moving on to more information about the bill and the billing statement and how much are my real expenses going to look like, because as if you remember previously, the information in your aid letter is an estimated cost of attendance. So if you decide to come to Purdue and you enroll in courses, around July is when you'll receive your billing statement. And that's going to include your actual expenses based on the courses that you're taking, so any special course fees, along with the general tuition and fees. And if you're living on campus, it'll also include your room and board, which varies depending on the type of room that you selected or that you were assigned to. And so at that point, you'll be able to see exactly what your out-of-pocket expenses will be, whether that be covered out of pocket, 529, or other loans or private scholarships, you'll be able to know exactly what your expenses and your billing statement will look like. The due date for the bill is always the first day of classes. So in August, on the first day of classes, the bill is due in full unless you decide to sign up for the installment payment plan with the Office of the Bursar. And so the installment payment plan allows you to essentially split up your remaining bill. So after your financial aid is applied, they'll split up the bill into about 4 payments, and you'll just make those through the 4 months of the semester. So one payment plan would be for fall, and if you decide to do the payment plan again in the spring, that'll be you'll opt into the payment plan again for that next semester. And I have a link for the Office of the Bursar installment plan that one of our moderators can throw there in the chat for you if you want to look out a little bit more information about that. And we did receive a question from Chasey, who asked, what payment plans are available and how do we find those? So we'll throw that in the chat. It's something you would sign up with the Office of the Bursar when that bill is due. And then also ask, as an out-of-state student, do you have any tips, suggestions on how to find grants, loans, scholarships to help cover the cost? And so for grant scholarships and loans, so the FAFSA that you submitted is how you're considered for grants and federal loans, and of course institutional aid. For non-Indiana residents, it is definitely a little bit more difficult since Purdue is a land grant institution. So financial aid is, Indiana residents are essentially prioritized for aid, and non-Indiana residents will generally see that higher cost of attendance and lower financial aid offers. And so some tips that we have for kind of bridging that gap between the financial aid offered and the cost of attendance is to continue that search for private scholarships. It's going to be one of the biggest factors in help bringing down your cost of attendance, since you don't qualify for things like Indiana state aid if you're not from Indiana. And I highly recommend that you log into that Scholarship Universe portal. Some of you may have accessed that back in December or prior to that to apply for departmental scholarships, but you can also use the Scholarship Universe portal to apply and search for private scholarships. And all of the scholarships that are in that portal are vetted to make sure that they're legitimate opportunities. You always want to be aware of scams when you're applying for scholarships through online portals, but the Scholarship Universe portal through Purdue is one that we vet every opportunity that you see there. So those are safe opportunities to apply for. Just complete your profile and you're automatically matched to the scholarships that match your profile the best. And if you don't apply, you know for sure you won't get any scholarships, but if you apply, there's at least a chance that you'll be considered. To be honest, there's a lot of scholarships that some students just never apply for, and applying increases your chances of being selected. So I highly recommend doing that. And another tip that I have is check with your community foundations in your area. Oftentimes they have scholarship funding that they give to students, local students, to attend higher education. So just be sure to do that. And for those of you that joined a little bit late, or just in general, this live is going to be recorded. So it'll be available later if you need to go back and review any of the other information that was already discussed or some of the other questions that were asked. So let me see if we have any more questions. There's a common question I see from Victor. Asked, is it possible that after a year you become considered an Indiana resident? So being considered an Indiana resident in terms of the state of Indiana is separate from being considered an Indiana resident for in-state tuition purposes with the University of Purdue. So just attending Purdue for 1 year does not guarantee that you'll be considered for in-state tuition rates for subsequent years. There's actually a bit of a complicated application process and very specific criteria that you must meet in order to qualify for in-state residency if you're not originally from Indiana. So we have some information that we can put in the chat box here, a link to the the registrar's website about how to apply if you believe that you may be considered. But just moving to Indiana for educational purposes does not qualify you, unfortunately, for in-state tuition rates. And then there's a question from Patricia. Is work study only available if it was on your financial aid offer? Work study. So work study is something that you had to indicate on your FAFSA that you were interested in it, and you also had to qualify because it is a need-based fund through the federal government. So if you didn't see it on your award package, feel free to contact us and we can take a look to see how you answered that question on your FAFSA. If you qualify, we may be able to put you on a waiting list if that's an option. Otherwise, if you don't have federal work study offered to you and you are still interested in getting a job, it's still a possibility. You don't need federal work study to get a job on campus. So you just visit the student employment website and you can look for and still apply for jobs. It just won't be through federal work study funding. So I was going to move on to some advice that we have for students who are still working to make that decision and learning about the financial aspect. So some advice I have is be sure to talk to your parents or your guardians about expenses. Talk about loans and talk about the different funding options available to you. Make sure you do some research about what it really means to take out a loan, what it means to take on debt, and how it can be manageable after graduation, especially depending on the field that you plan to go into. You can kind of look online and see what the expected entry salary or median salary is for the career that you plan to go into, and kind of compare that to the loan debt or any other type of debt that you may be planning to take on to attend higher education. Another advice is to be sure to keep an eye on both your My Purdue account and your Purdue email address, because we'll be sending all of our communications through those sources. So any updates, information about events, or any important details about your aid or any request for information, we'll be sending it there. So just be sure to keep an eye on that. And of course, if you need to contact us via email, it's really helpful if you use your Purdue email address. It makes it easier for us to identify your account and give you the most accurate information. And then another advice is to keep in touch with us on social media. So they can drop the social media handles there in the chat. But we put important updates there as well, information about events and things like that. Or if you have questions, you can also sometimes reach us there. But of course, giving us a call or stopping by the office, sending us an email directly is also a great way to get your questions answered. And then we also have some advice for parents. So discuss your expectations with your student. Have that talk with them about debt responsibility when it comes to taking on loans, or the responsibility for maintaining eligibility for merit scholarships, and coach them about these new responsibilities. Many of you may have experience with this, many of you may not. So if you have questions that you're not sure how to discuss them with your student, just give us a call and we can point you in the right direction for resources and that you can take a look at to review, to make sure you have all the accurate information when discussing whether Purdue is a good, academic, social, or financial fit for the family as well. And then be sure to alert the Division of Financial Aid with regards to any special circumstances or changes in income, out-of-pocket medical expenses. When the current financial aid situation is not accurately reflected, you may want to give us a call to see what options are available to you. It looks like we received a question from Bob about this exact situation. So he stated, our family contribution was figured using our 2019 tax return. If our situation has changed significantly between 2019 and 2020, do we communicate directly through your financial aid office, or do we need to find a way to do it through Fafsa? So when you use the Fafsa, you're required to use 2019 tax information. There's no exception to that. So once you do that, you're done with Fafsa. If you have a special circumstance, you need to contact us directly. So give us a call, send us an email, stop by virtual counseling. If you're on campus, stop by our office. So we have 4 different methods for you to get in contact with us and let us know about your situation. There are certain instances in which we can make an exception and use 2020 tax information. In some instances, we can use estimates for 2021. So just be sure to give us a call. We'll walk you through it and let you know what you need to do in order to have that exception considered. Okay, let's see some chat questions we have. Okay. We received many questions about if merit scholarships have been awarded. And yes, merit scholarships have already been awarded. You would have been notified on your offer of admission letter if you were selected for one of those. So just be sure to check there, but it's also listed on your aid offer letter. Patricia. Oh, we have that one there. Okay, Sid asked a question. Do scholarships earned through Scholarship Universe go exclusively to Purdue's cost of attendance? So in the Scholarship Universe portal, there are institutional scholarships, which are awarded by Purdue to Purdue students, but there are also options for private scholarships. So if you're only referring to the institutional scholarships through Purdue, those are applied directly to your account, and you can receive financial aid up to the full cost of attendance. So yes, they can be applied to your billing statement or other educationally related expenses such as books or housing or miscellaneous expenses, transportation expenses, things like that. So that's included in your cost of attendance. There are some scholarships that are only fee dedicated, which means they only apply to tuition and fees, which are a little bit less common. So just be sure to check your award letter. It'll tell you what you're eligible to receive based on what you've been selected for. And it looks like we received a question from Elena. What should I do if I can't afford the estimated cost of attending Purdue? So the first step is to consider all of your options and exhaust all of those options. So be sure to ask questions, contact us to have us explain your aid offer letter, and we can walk you through some of the options available to you based on what you've already been offered from the Division of Financial Aid. And then we do have a resource on our website that you can take a look at. We have some tips or some resources about how to cover remaining costs if there's a big gap between your financial aid and your cost of attendance. And I think they can throw that in, one of the moderators can throw that in the chat. And just be sure to review all of that information. We do highly encourage families to make that decision about whether Purdue is a good financial fit for the student and the family as well. We received a question from Karen regarding the work study and the financial aid. We received $1,500 per semester to accept or reject. We were thinking of accepting the second semester only. Is this possible? So yep, that's possible. Just be sure to contact our office, because when you're in your career account trying to accept the aid, it's going to automatically accept for the whole academic year. So if you're trying to only accept for one semester, just have your students send us an email with their Purdue ID number from the Purdue email address, and we'll be able to remove the one semester to have her just accept the spring semester. So yeah, it's definitely possible. If for any reason your student decides that she can't or doesn't want to work that second semester, there's no penalty for not utilizing the federal work study. We can remove it. It's not a problem. There's no punishment for not using it if for some reason she accepted it and then later decided not to use it. So it's not a problem. We received another question from Emma, who asked us, my daughter is targeting the professional flight major. In addition to tuition, do I need to prepare a budget for fly time training, such as how much we need to pay for airplane rental? Is there any information that can help me plan this budget? So that's an incredibly good question, because the professional flight major has a lot of different courses with very specific and varying flight fees. And we do have some information on the Purdue website for the Office of the Bursar, and we can drop that link in the chat for you. So if you go to the tuition calculator on the Bursar website, you'll see information for fees and rates, and just select the year, and then you'll be able to see all of the aviation fees. So they vary from year to year, and based on the courses that the student is taking, you'll see a different price, which is different from a student not in the professional flight program, because you'll see tuition and then you'll see aviation fees on top of that. Let's see. Okay, some questions about international students and financial aid or loans. It looks like Alex asked us, are financial aid or loan programs available for international students? If so, which are they and how to apply? So unfortunately, need-based financial aid typically isn't available to students who do not meet certain financial aid citizenship requirements, because we need the Fafsa in order to determine need-based financial aid, and most international students are not eligible to file the Fafsa, which means we cannot consider international students for need-based aid. There, however, is some merit-based aid that you may be eligible for from private sources. So one resource we typically recommend to international students is this website called EDU Pass, and we can throw that in the chat for you to refer to. It's a site where you can look for some resources as an international student that may be able to apply to higher education in the United States. And then with regards to loans, international students may be eligible to get a loan. However, in most cases, you need a U.S. citizen cosigner, unless, of course, that loan is coming from your home country. Then it would be up to the discretion of that loan lender in your home country. So we have more information about that on our website. You can take a look at the different types of lenders that Purdue students use, and we'll drop that link there in the chat as well. So let me see here if I have some more questions in the chat. If I did not receive student work, can I still get one? If you're referring to federal work study, you can contact our office to see if you're eligible to receive it. If you indicated no on the FAFSA, you may not see it there. But if you're not eligible for it, you can still get a job on campus. It just means that it won't be through the federal work study program. Let's see. Oh, there's a great question there. Does a double major increase tuition fees? So if you're, regardless of whether you're taking 12 credit hours or 18 credit hours, there's a flat rate tuition rate of taking 8 credit hours or more. So if you're doing 2 majors and say you're taking 18 credit hours because you have a lot of classes to complete with these 2 majors, no, there's no additional expense unless your specific courses have additional fees. So if you're majoring in English and chemistry and you have some chemistry courses, lab courses that have additional fees, you'll see additional fees there. But in terms of the general tuition, no, it's a flat rate based on the number of credit hours you're taking. Let's see what other questions we have. Feel free to keep them coming. Someone mentioned that they're stuck doing all the college stuff on your own. So if you have any concerns or you're just confused about the process and you're not sure where to start or what to do or how to make a decision or what types of aid you can apply for, just give us a call, stop by counseling, virtual counseling, or send us an email. We'll be more than happy to walk you through the process. We know that different people have different resources available to them. So we would love to be a resource that can help you get through the process and educate you and inform you about all of the options available to you so that you can make the most informed decision about whether or not you decide to attend Purdue and what types of funding you'll use to do that. Let's see. Are summer classes extra or not? Summer classes do have their own fees. You can visit the Office of the Bursar website and just search for tuition and fees summer. They are separate from fall and spring. So if you decide to enroll in summer, you can apply for financial aid for the summer term. But yes, it's an additional expense on top of fall and spring. The scholarship website I was recommending is Scholarship Universe. Scholarship Universe. It's the portal that you may have accessed to apply for departmental scholarships, but you can access it through your My Purdue account, or if you just visit the Purdue website and type in Purdue Scholarship Universe, you'll be able to get to it. Your profile should mostly be set up because we pulled in information from your admissions application. So you should see most of the information filled in there, but for some private scholarships, they might ask more specific questions about academic achievements and things like that. So just be sure to fill in any missing information related to you. Some fields you won't be able to edit because we pulled it directly from your admissions application and profile. So just go ahead and complete that and you'll be matched automatically to various institutional or private scholarship opportunities. Can my son change the subject in the first year as his preference changed? If a student is interested in changing their major, then they may want to reach out to the Office of Admissions to ask if that's possible. There's no guarantee that there's space available in the program or major that he wants to switch to. Just keep in mind that any student that has a high merit scholarship, such as Emerging Leaders or Trustee or Presidential, if you change your major before coming to Purdue, you'll lose that scholarship. So just be sure to not do that. Let's see what other questions we have. Another question about what qualifies you for in-state tuition. If you live in Indiana and you've graduated from an Indiana high school, you more than likely qualify for in-state tuition rates. If you're not from Indiana, you do not qualify for Indiana tuition. So if you want to look at more details about what may qualify for you, there are very specific instances in which a non-Indiana resident would qualify. So just be sure to visit the registrar website. There's more information about that, and they can our moderators can put a link in the chat about where to go to look at that. But in general, non-Indiana residents will not qualify for in-state tuition rates during their educational career at Purdue. Someone asked, Camby asked, I have received the Marquee Scholarship from Purdue. And I lost the question. I received an email that it may be replaced by a named scholarship. What does this mean? That's a really good question. So some of the high merit scholarships, there are specific donors that donate money into these funds. So in some instances, you may see the donor's name appear and replace an amount of the fund. But if you look at your account, it's still going to be the same exact amount that you've received. It's just to essentially honor the donors that have donated that money. So instead of saying Marquee, you may see Smith Marquee Scholarship or something like that. It's just to honor the donors that have given that money to the students. It's a really good question. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Let's see. Somebody asked, Suresh asked, if you sign up for Purdue housing and end up remote, will Purdue refund housing? At this time, Purdue does not plan for fall. All students are going to be on campus. It's going to be normal on-campus housing, so there's no expectation that it will be remote at all. If for any reason there's an extenuating circumstance that they go remote at that time, you would be notified via email at that time regarding their process for that. But as of right now, there's no changes. It's planned to be everyone on campus for fall 2021, which is really exciting to think that everything will be, at least on Purdue campus, we'll see it bustling a little bit more. So I'm really excited for that, to see everyone on campus. So right now it looks like we're running out of time. I guess we're going to wrap up. I hope this has been at least a little bit informative for you all. If anything I said was unclear, or if you have additional questions or concerns or doubts, or you just need some assistance as you're navigating this process, then we're always available to help you. Just reach out. We have 4 methods, so I think I've repeated it a few times. Email, virtual counseling via Zoom. If you happen to be on campus for a tour or a visit, or you live nearby, you can always stop by our office and we have counselors available to assist you. And also you can give us a call. So just reach out if you have any questions. We'll post all of our contact information in the chat now, so just be sure to take a look there. And any other relevant links we'll put there to close out the session. But thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your evening. We look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast covering orientation, so be sure to tune in. And then, yep, it'll be recorded. So if you missed any part of this, feel free to access it on the channel here, and you can watch it again, or at least watch the portion that you missed. So thanks so much for tuning in. See ya.